Hello and welcome to the Executive Hub. My name is Mustafa Hosseini at the Executive Hub. Our vision and mission is to help you grow your business with simple tips and strategies from successful entrepreneurs. My guest today is Frank Wassenbergh. Welcome, Frank.
Hey, how you doing, Mustafa?
Great to see you. How's your day so far, Frank?
So far, so good. It's 3 o'clock my time, so it's almost over. I'm ready to
Fantastic.
start the
Whereabouts
second
are you?
job at home. New York, out in Long Island, actually. In about 2 seconds, you won't be asking that anymore once you hear my accent, but that's where I'm from.
Oh, fantastic. Love it. Love it. So today we're talking about how to find the best customer experience technologies for long-term success for your company. This is an interesting conversation, and finding, I think, the right tech piece for customer experience and designing a good customer experience for your customers, I think, is extremely important, and it matters a lot in terms of keeping your customers happy. Running a profitable business. So, gang, if you're watching and listening, if you know someone that could benefit from this conversation, share the link with them and or tag them in a post and uh, you know, share the knowledge and wisdom with them. So let's get into it, Frank. What is your story?
So, about 10 years ago, two of my partners and I started a company, Cloudlinx. We had a particular focus. We had spent the last, oh my God, before that, maybe 15 years together, working together. And we had been working for what was largely a commodity driven sale, very little differentiation in the products. And what made the most impact to people was really how well you sold it and how well you supported it with customer service. And we've kind of fell into the contact center space when one of those clients came to us and said, our current provider is kicking us off in 6 months. We have to find a new supplier in 6 months. And the process usually took a year. We kind of said, hey, we're new to the space, we're new to the industry in this particular field of technology because cloud contact center migrations were new at that point, and they trusted us. They said, listen, we're new to it too. We're on an on-prem solution. We're going to work with you because we trust you and you're going to take us there. And we worked on an RFP together. We built this process together. And that client in 6 months went from saying yes to working with us to being on a new cloud-based contact center after a full RFP and discovery session. And ever since then, to be honest, we fell in love with the CX world. We really did. The people were great. The technologies were great. And in our old world, Mustafa, when we did a change, when we sold a big sale, maybe two or three people in the organization would know about it because it really didn't impact people. It was mostly back end technology stuff. When we did this, the entire organization was coming up to us and saying thank you. Agents to C-suite saying, what you've done for the business is unbelievable. It's so exciting for us. So we fell in love with it and we took the entire business to the CX space, the customer experience space. And we've been there
Love
ever
it.
since.
So, why customer experience? Was there an event or a specific moment that sparked the idea?
You know, it's a good question. I give it a little credit to my partner Kevin. I don't like giving him credit, but I'll give him credit when he deserves it. We were doing something for that first client, and we went into such detail because a lot of the stuff was new, and a lot of the cloud providers were new, and they weren't really good at marketing to certain individuals. And we were good at that. We were good at new technologies. We were good at helping people manage. We were good at project management. And he kind of said, he looked at us and he said, you know what, dude, we are so far ahead of the curve on this that people are still talking about SD-WAN. They're still talking about getting off MPLS networks. Let's talk about something totally different to people. And it worked. We fell into this space through that client and he's focused us on it and we jumped into it and we haven't looked back since. It's been fantastic for us.
That's amazing. So, who do you serve today, and what do you do for them?
We serve clients of all industries, right? There is no industry vertical that we specialize in, right? So as we go out and we speak with clients, we're speaking with people that are, $5 million organizations on up to $1 billion organizations, from 10 call center agents on up to thousands of call center agents across verticals. We do particularly well in medical. We do particularly well in finance, manufacturing, equipment distribution. But there's no one client or vertical that we're good at in particular, right? We're good at everything because really the model is tell us who your profiles are for your agents. The problems that you're trying to solve, there may be some uniqueness to your challenges, But what we're trying to do is we're trying to match you to a provider that makes the most sense for your business. So we really look at every partner agnostic, every client, I should say, agnostically, and we take things from each vertical to the other vertical, right? Like we've taken best practices from manufacturing businesses and brought them into healthcare verticals. And people really appreciate that we have a bigger breadth of knowledge, servicing clients of all sizes and any size contact center agent. It's really about, strangely, we kind of get the more complicated ones. The clients that have come to us are like, hey, I've met with 6 vendors. I'm just as lost as now as when I started this process because they all said they could do it. So could you help me out? Those complicated ones are what we get.
Love it. All right. So tell us about the different problems that you guys solve and how do you solve it for customers? So like what kind of problems do they come to you with?
Yeah, there's been a couple different milestones with this. When we first started out, people were coming to us and saying, hey, I'm on-prem. I'm with a Genesis or a Cisco or an Avaya call center, and I want to get off. I want to get into the cloud. I don't want to pay it anymore. I don't want to manage it anymore. I want to go up into a contact center in the cloud. And that was the first one. That was the first kind of inflection point where we kind of looked at this model and said, this is great for us. The second kind of clients that we service are the ones that said, hey, 2020 happened. The pandemic is still kind of fresh in all of our minds. And they made rash decisions to just jump into it with a provider that they saw on Gartner's Magic Quadrant or they saw on an advertisement on LinkedIn. And now those people are coming back to us and saying, hey, we may have jumped in too early and we're looking for a switch. We're looking to change something. And now the big one, which you're probably tired of hearing, Mustafa, it's AI, right? Everyone's looking at AI or some element of introducing AI into some element of their call center, some element of their contact center. And those are the clients that come to us and say, hey, I have spoken with 6 or 7 AI vendors. I've spoken with 3 or 4 workforce management or quality management vendors. They all say they're great for my problems. I don't know the questions I don't know. I don't know what to ask. I don't know how to differentiate. And I'm looking for a little more help in guiding us through this. And those are the clients that are open enough to say, hey, I need some help, and willing to look at an outside partner to kind of guide them through this. And I find that level of partnership we have with clients, the ones that are really open to that level of partnership, it really drives results because they're very open to listening to what we're trying to say and do.
Fantastic. Seems like you guys are big into call centers and contact centers.
So we do a lot of work with the contact centers. I mean, in today's, my work day today, we spoke to a client today who has a very small outsourced contact center, right? And we'll use call and contact center interchangeably throughout the day. But we spoke to someone who has a very small contact center. But what it was is the people on site that he was dealing with, the people that were out in the field needed support. They needed a better support. So we didn't have a contact center, but he had people out the field that need access to knowledge articles. They need access to critical information. And what we were able to talk to him about is a process mapping tool, a process automation tool, a knowledge management tool. So he can look at it and say, I have one source of truth for all my vendors, regardless of brands. That's a unique kind of problem to solve, and not a lot of people can go and solve that problem. And then we go up into the large contact centers, which we had another call today, where the guy was like, I have 600 agents, and we're on a supplier that treats us terribly, and I want to get off. I want to move off to a new supplier. So I don't want to do this alone because I did it the first time and I don't trust my decision making anymore. And we're working with him on that. So, it's a good mix, but the contact center has been a driving force for us because it's good, strong, loyal, sticky business that's out there that people don't want to do this every so often, so they don't have the experience because they're not doing it that often and they rely on us.
Fantastic. Can you give us like a specific example of a client that you work with? How did you find them and what was the challenge that you guys fixed for them?
I'm not going to tell you how I found them.
Like
That's the secret sauce.
Like a case study.
No, so it's interesting, right? We do a lot of work at trade shows, right? We're probably, I'm a terrible cold caller, right? I'm not good at it. I never have been, never will be. So we get a lot of clients through word of mouth. We get a lot of clients through referrals, but we do a lot of trade show work. And that's kind of good fertile ground for us to go meet new clients because they're in this wide open room of vendors and they're sitting there saying, hey, I just walked down this row and I've talked to 20 vendors. I've talked to so many guys, so many gals that are out there. And honestly, I started down there confused. Now I'm down here and I'm just as lost. So most of the clients will meet there, right? We'll meet them at trade shows because it's a good place that people are open to learning. And the case studies are all kind of the same, but I'll give you one in particular where we had this client who said to us, "Listen, I have product specialists in certain areas of the country, and they're very specialized people for us. They know a particular source of knowledge, and it's hampering our growth of our contact center because those subject matter experts, I can't really pull them into the contact center because they're out in the field, they're doing things, they're handling client calls, but I need to centralize support and take their knowledge and get it into the team so that the call center team has maybe not their practical knowledge, but maybe some of their technical knowledge." Another one we had was a client who just said, "Listen, I just put in a new CRM, and the challenge that I'm having is I've got this system of truth, but I've got no presentation layer to the data. I've got nothing that I'm doing out there that's really powerful. And I need to get it out to the clients because I need to go meet the clients where they want to be met." So in both of those cases, what we do is we went through the process of we think we've got a good process, right? The process is labor intensive, and sometimes sales organizations hate us, Mustafa, because we slow things down. The clients like us because in slowing it down, we're getting a lot of detail. So the process for a 10-person company or a 1,000-person company is the same thing. We do a very detailed discovery session. We do a needs assessment. We do a specific use case demonstration that's focused on them, and every vendor has to do the same exact demonstration. There's no difference in the demonstrations. And the reason that's important to us is because when you're out there and you're doing a demo, let's say you have 10 stakeholders in a decision-making process, and you're going through 4 or 5 demos of a particular product, you may get 3 or 4 people who just don't show up to some of them, right? And what this allows us to do is to say, "Mr. Client, every vendor is going to show you the exact same thing according to your needs." So these clients really rely on that kind of a demo because now they're able to score it and grade it in a very practical level for them, as opposed to what like an industry rating service would do for them, right? It's very different. So say across the industry rating services are like, "Hey, across the industry, this is what these guys are doing well." And what we do is we break it down to here's what they're going to do well for you. And that's what we did with both of those clients. We went out, we found vendors, we wrote the RFP, we managed the demonstration. And then what we do pretty particularly for those 2 clients is they relied on us to do legal review for them. We do a lot of legal review to make sure that clients are getting the best contract, the pricing negotiations, and then we ride shotgun on implementation. So that's a bit of what we did for those clients. I can get into specifics, but that, if you want to get into that, I can dive into a little more detail. But I think it's probably a little valuable to understand that process.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Cool process. Interesting. What makes you guys different compared to some of the competition that you have out there?
Now that's so I guess that's the magic question, right? you know, Everybody's looking to be different in some way, shape, or form. We're all at the age in our life where we're trying to be different in some way, shape, or form, right? You go through high school and you're like, I want to be the same as everybody, and now you're different. You're trying to do something different. I think if you really look at what Cloudlinx does, right, as CX consultants, we're specialized in this field, right? We have a very large practice that's focused in this space. We took the time to get good at it. We took the time to differentiate it. We took the time to learn the audience. Our competition is out there, and maybe on a Tuesday they'll sell a broadband circuit, and on a Wednesday they'll sell an SD-WAN device and maybe some security. Our whole world is focused in this space. So we go after these clients, we work with these clients, we live in that world, we're having conversations about that world. You probably won't find me having a conversation about anything other than this in the last 10 years, because the business is very much directed at this space. Now, it may seem silly to be like, okay, so your differentiation is that you're focused in it. It may seem silly to say that, but it's really it's a major differentiator, because the barrier to entry to this for a person to come in and say they're a CX expert is nothing. You can just start putting that on your website. It's 10 years of practical experience, tangible experience that make us different, and 25 years in this business that make us very different, focused on this vertical.
Fantastic. I probably should have asked this question sooner, but Tell us about what you mean and what is customer experience. I know you probably take it for granted that you know what it is, but I think some people watching out there, they don't know the definition of customer experience, what it is that we're working on.
Sure. I can use something probably pretty relevant to you, right? You and I were getting ready to do this podcast today.
Hmm.
And I thought what you did was great to prep for this. You had a follow-up, you had sent me an invitation, you sent me 3 or 4 follow-ups for the invitation, you sent me a prep call, you sent me a detailed email with the website and the directions of what I was going to have to do to get into that website, what I was going to have to do to get into this restream service. You answered all of my questions that I possibly could have before I asked them to you. My marketing person came in here and almost like I was an idiot, was like, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? And I'm like, yeah, the guy was great. Mustafa was perfect. He did everything we needed to do to get ready for this podcast. And that's really the core of what customer experience is. It's getting information and responding to information in a way that makes the customer loyal to your brand, right? So what I will never, and I can't speak bad about my experience so far today, because getting on this podcast was the easiest thing in the world. You and I did it, and it was fantastic. You had every question answered. So really, the customer experience that's out there is, how do you reach people? How do you communicate with people? How do they reach you? And the technologies that support that communication in the channels that you want it to be. That's kind of the back end part of it. So it's twofold, Mustafa. It's one, where and when and how do you communicate with people? And two, how and where are you and what are you using to support that reach? And that's what we put together to really bring we call it the CX technology stack. That stack of technologies is what's supporting that customer experience and making that person loyal to the brand.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate your feedback.
It was good. I feel love.
I've done a little bit of, I guess, this customer experience piece where in designing software, working with customers, and setting our processes based on what we kind of sit down and think about what they're going to go through and what questions they're going to have at each stage of the game, and what can we do. And based on some of the feedback that we get from customers as well, we kind of try to put in processes and things to address questions, address challenges, and make it easier for them too.
I think there's a big chunk of that with it's people, process, and technology, right? That's been around for a long time, right? People, process, technology. But a lot of what you see in the customer experience landscape is that people are flooded with data. Right now, I think
Yes.
there's almost too much data out there. And you've seen in your business, you get so much information coming to you, you don't know what to do with it. You don't know how to act on it. You don't know what people really want to see and do with that data. So a big function of within the CX space is understanding how to act on data. And like I said earlier, a lot of times we slow down the process because one of the most dangerous things that we find is that when customers are really eager to buy a lot of stuff, they tend to overbuy. Just like when I go shopping when I'm hungry, I overbuy. So what we try to do is slow the process down and say, take a breath. Let's look at what you need now, because you could be 3 quarters out before you're ready to implement that thing. Let's get your data right. So like an example of that, Mustafa, would be like gamification. People like the concept of a gamification engine, but if you don't have the data set up, if you don't have the rewards set up, if you don't have the processes set up, if you don't have the people bought into the change, if the system isn't working right, so there's no frustration to people, that end product that's going to motivate people is going to be wasted in the beginning. So I think a lot of even just this conversation kind of highlights the fact that data is good, but unless you know how to act on it, it's useless. And that's what a big chunk of what customer experience people will come to us and say is like, I need to act on it in a way that's coherent to people. I need a strategy.
So, what are like some of the typical forms or types of data that you see customers are struggling with that you help them make decisions on, or they need to make decisions on?
So there's 2 parts to the business, really, right? Well, maybe 3, but there's really 2 parts to it. You go out there and you say to somebody, you want to get from A to B in a technology standpoint, right? So a lot of what we focus on is how are you enabling your agents? How are you empowering your agents? What are you trying to do for those agents, right? And those agents, we've been saying this for years, those agents are the most forward-facing members of your brand, right? Maybe behind advertising, but they're the people that are out there dealing with customers either when they're happy or when they're really unhappy. So a big chunk of what we're doing, if I'm going down the right angle on your question, is we get them set up so that the C-suite on down through the agent is comfortable with the direction they're going in the organization. What are they trying to accomplish for that agent? How are they trying to empower that agent? What are they trying to give that agent to deliver your mission statement better, right? So it's not so much forms, it's more process. So people are coming to us saying, hey, I've got that first agent over there. I've got that agent over there. They do very different jobs. I need them to be able to do both of their jobs very, very well. So let's start with how we can help them, and then we'll work our way backwards to reporting. We never start with reporting. We start on empowering that agent to do their job better. If that's answering your question right, hopefully I'm on the right direction there.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Are there so in terms of the data and agents, are there like, and I'm guessing like some of the companies, they need to know what's happening on the calls with their agents
Oh gosh, yeah.
on a daily basis. What's happening, what's not happening, what are the conversion rates,
Hourly.
questions, the whole thing. Is that the type of thing that you guys help your customers
Yeah.
with?
Yeah. You'll get clients that'll come to us and you'll say, hey, I want to do so. You're in kind of what's called the quality management aspect of the business, right? So if
Yes.
you're sitting there and you're saying, hey, I want to hear what Joe is saying, I want to compare that to what Susie is saying, and Susie is crushing it and Joe is struggling. I want to get Joe up to a Susie level of performance, right?
Yes.
If Joe's having a bad day today, I need to pull them off the line faster. Or if, hey, at the end of the day, I want to have Joe's calls and Susie's calls analyzed, and I want to use Susie's for training, let's say, right? Because Susie's crushing it. I want to use her for training. And then that goes down into really the quality management fields where you're talking about everything from Susie's average handle time. Is Susie not over talking somebody? Is Susie listening? Is Susie showing empathy? Is Susie using the right keywords and the right key phrases for us? And you'll get clients that say, hey, we want to do that daily. You get other clients that say we want to do that on a real-time basis. I want my managers to listen in on active calls. And that's probably, because you're going to go into this at some point, I'm sure, that's probably the most frequent area where AI is being introduced into that call center first, just to listen, analyze, and record those calls. Because there used to be a person, there still is, but mostly those calls are being listened to and scored by AI now, and report cards are being created, and only the bad calls are being pushed upstream. So that when that person's job used to be to listen into calls and say, hey, Susie's doing great and Joey's doing terrible, if that's the name I use, I forget if it's Joey or not. But Joey's getting killed today because Joey's doing nothing right. How do we train those people? How do we record those calls? Those people would listen in, and they would really only be getting 3, 4, 5% of the calls listened to. So you'd be making decisions at a strategic level on 5% of the call instances. It's not an effective way to do it. AI now takes that up to 100% of the calls can be reviewed. And by the way, we'll tell you where the bad ones are. And by the way, we'll show you some trainings that need to be done. And by the way,
Yes.
we'll tell you the words that are being used. It's cool stuff. And that's the first place where people are really kind of coming to us and saying, hey, I want to saturate my call center with AI in the QM space.
Interesting. So is the integration of AI making just technical things that, because I used to run a call center myself as well.
Okay.
Is the integration of AI into the calls, is it slowing things down, making any trouble at all, or no? It's pretty seamless and
No,
working.
it's a great question. It really is. And I think when you start diving into AI, the first thing that we're seeing is that there's probably 5 areas where AI is being introduced into the call center. I should have sent you a graphic probably to use and show this. But everybody's saying to their call center managers, their operations chief, go get AI. Go get it. Right? Let's go use it. And then the question they're all coming back with is, sure, where do I put it? How much is it going to cost? And is that going to save me any money? Right? Those are the same 3 questions that everyone gets asked. So AI is being used in kind of 5 areas, right? That pre-call authentication and routing. It's in-call agent assistance type stuff. It's being used in in-call containerization. And when I say call, it can be a chat, an email, a SMS, but it's being used in that containerization. It's being used in hiring and training, and then it's being used in quality management, right? And it's not, you figure that they all kind of lead into each other, right? So if I'm hiring and training in AI, and then I'm routing the calls and authenticating users, and then I'm containerizing it with a bot, or I'm just assisting the agent, and then I'm going into QM. those 5 areas are hugely valuable for a call center. So it's not like it's slowing it down. The adoption of it is at an interesting point now because there's so many vendors that are popping up that are doing it where clients are just struggling to create an ROI analysis. They're struggling to create a use case that's going to be profitable for them. And a lot of these call centers don't want to cut all their agents. They don't want to cut 50% of their agents. They like their agents. They're doing a great job. Where I think, to answer your question directly, people are looking at it to really strengthen the agent first. So that's why training and QM is first and most adopted. And then agent assistance is probably next. And where that agent assistance is going is to really make that conversation with the client more powerful. So no, I don't think it's slowing it down. I think it's speeding it up and it's making the conversations more meaningful. And that's probably kind of an industry stat that would prove true across the board.
Fantastic. Is it getting to a point where it's creating too much data with the AI, and now people need to translate the data and use it and understand what the hell do I have to do with all this data?
In some aspects, yeah. I would say call centers are creatures of habit. Call centers are creatures of they know their reports. So Mustafa, you ran a call center, right? You were involved in a call center. There were probably the same 10 reports you gave to the managers or the owners of the company for years, right?
Yep.
Right. And that data now, maybe it took you a whole week to prepare for your one-on-one to get the reports ready and stuff like that, right? Yep. What some of the AI in just that level of reporting, right? So reporting is kind of an all-encompassing element of this, right? It's flooding the call center with data. You're getting a ton of stuff, and maybe empathy gets an over-exaggerated sense of importance to people, or maybe it's exactly at the right spot of where it should be. People don't know, but it all depends on what your agents are doing. But when you're using AI for data analytics, right, you as the call center manager shouldn't be sitting there and saying, I need to prep for my one-on-one with my boss to show them the reports. I want to sit with her and I want to show her the reports, and I want them delivered to her in advance of the meeting so she can ask me questions. And then what I want to do is I want to talk strategically about the data as opposed to giving it to them the first time at the meeting. So yes, it's creating a flood of data, but what it's actually doing is it's actually crunching those data so you can be a more effective manager for your team. And I think that's something that gets skipped a lot for people. That one-on-one you had with your boss, that was probably huge, a huge point of stress for you in just prepping. If you can get rid of that,
getting all the data.
Yeah, like you're massaging data. Maybe there was an agent that wasn't doing good and you wanted to make her look better or him look better. But in this situation, it's all there. It's all fact-based. And you can't mess around with it. You can find out why it's like that. But now you're one-on-one and all that data is presented to you in a fashion that now you're making a really good strategic conversation.
Absolutely. And I'm guessing as it gets better, the AI gets better, and people are probably already working on it. AI could actually make suggestions based on the data. Be like, look, this is happening. Here's a couple of solutions you might want to try.
There is, yes. I mean, there's AI out there right now that's telling people, here's the areas you need to train your people in. Here's what they're doing terribly. Here's what you want to focus on with this person. And oh, by the way, here's the modules that they need to focus on. I mean, there is, and then, some of it's AI, some of it's if-then statements, some of it's just pure analytics of the call. But like when you get into the really advanced stuff, I mean, you're diving into elements of like, hey, John kept cross-talking. John said these words. It pissed the customer off. And by the way, here's where John recovered and got the client to be referenceable now. So look at the cycle of what he did in this call. Fix this, and you'll have better referrals. It's really impressive what it can do for things right now on just that QM standpoint.
Absolutely. I mean, just to be transparent, we're also working on an AI kind of call agent tool where that handles incoming and outgoing calls, and we're building in a lot of components that could analyze the call and test different types of scripts, tell us about what's happening on the call, and the whole shebang. It's interesting what AI can do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably one of the, like in the generative AI section, I'm probably one of the old men in the room where I'm like, don't use that for your work, be your own creative self, exercise your own brain. But in certain elements of it where it can create a massive efficiency like that, I do agree that there's a huge place for it. And people are really getting a lot of benefits out of that. I'm still kind of like, don't use it to create don't use it to write for you yet. I want to be comfortable with what it's doing. People are saying it's the greatest thing in the world for writing. I like having my own people's minds used for things, but it is powerful. You're right. It is very powerful.
Oh yeah, could do a lot. So how do you guys go about charging and monetizing as a consultant?
So it's interesting, right? What we made a strategic decision. It's a good question, Mustafa. What we did was about 10 years ago, we made a very strategic decision to say we're not going to charge one-time consulting fees, because what we felt that did was, first of all, it inherently creates this feast or famine cycle with people, in which consultants win a deal, they focus on the deal's done, and now they have to go find it again. It's a tough feast or famine cycle. So we wanted to avoid that cycle. But we chose to monetize our business through the agency channel, much like an insurance broker does. So we're aligned with almost every vendor that's in the space. And if we don't have an agreement with them, most of them are willing to work with us to get an agreement on. And what we do is we take a small monthly recurring commission for that sale that we bring to the vendor. We don't care which one they go with. At the end of the day, you talk to any one of our vendors, they get beat up, man. We beat the heck out of them. And that monthly residual commission that we get allows us to standardize the deals that we take. It allows us to standardize the number of deals we take and say, hey, we can focus on this client for a long time. And we don't have to worry about, hey, now you owe us money, now you owe us money, now you owe us money. And what we felt was that gave us a few distinct advantages. One, since we don't get paid unless that client's service is installed and up and running and the client stays with it for a period of time, we felt that really and truly aligned ourselves with the client's best interest. Two, what we felt it did was it gave us the opportunity to only take on 10, 12 clients a year, 15 clients a year, because now we can spend a ton of time with them. We can work with them. We can do everything we need to do with them, right? And it created a uniformity with the vendors, because at the end of the day, if we're partnered with the client and we don't care which vendor they're going with, it takes away the sales process. There's no selling on our part. We don't care which vendor the client goes with, as long as they go with the one that's going to work for them for the long time. And we really put a lot of effort into that. So it's a cool model. And I think it's one that resonates with clients, because they don't want to, some want to pay up front, some don't, and some understand the value. But once they understand the value, they dive into why it makes sense for them.
Yeah, so you're not attached to any one vendor, and because whatever the case may be, you're just like, hey, this one vendor is going to work best for you. Let's go with that. I don't care what my commissions are. All I care about is your success and your comfort and value, I guess.
Yeah, it's short-term success, right? So like if you sit there and said, hey, let me rephrase that. It's short-term success for us to sit there and say, hey, that vendor's going to pay us 2 points more than that vendor. Yeah. So let's push the clients out, because it's very transparent. People know. And if we've done our job right from the start, clients realize which vendor is going to be the right choice for them. It's apparent for them, right? Very few instances where the client's like, I'm between 5 vendors still, Frank. I'm stuck, right? It's never really that. Maybe it's 1 or 2. Maybe there's some value add, some technical engineering. There's some pluses and minuses. But at the end of the day, we tell the clients the same thing. It's your choice who you want to go with. We're just guiding you down a path that makes sense for you, and we're getting you all the right questions you want to ask. And if they choose vendor A or vendor B, we're happy with that, because it's a long-term partnership for us.
Absolutely. I mean, if thinking about, it seems to me like you guys are thinking more about the lifetime value of a customer versus a 1-month commission.
Yeah, I mean, yes, Mustafa. If anything, if it's said today of importance, that's it, right? We have zero interest in a short-term gain from a client. It's not there. We don't chase bonuses. We don't chase incentives. And that's not our model, right? And you talk to the clients who are out there that have worked with us, they'll give you a good heads up on that, right? Our value is getting that client to go with somebody so they can look back 5 years from now and saying, I'm still on the right vendor, because they got me the right vendor. They planned for growth. We executed on growth, and it's the right vendor for us. And that's where I think clients really see a differentiation, is that we don't care. We really don't care. We don't implement the products ourselves. We're kind of a co-pilot. So even on that secondary level of interaction with the client, we don't have a loyalty to a vendor.
Beautiful. Love it. Yeah. It seems like to me what that sounds and seems like an investment type of approach, a long-term type of investment. where you were not here as a working as a, let me use the say, as a day trader. I want like a Charlie Munger type of investor, where I invest in a customer instead of short gains, long term gains. It works much better versus couple
I
of points extra.
no, I listen. You're right. I mean, that's the key for us, right? I we did a deal. I'll sometimes every vendor likes to show you. It's like social media. Every vendor likes to show you the A side of the record, right? Life is great, everything's easy, we're the best. But sometimes things don't go right. Sometimes things still go wrong, and sometimes you find out vendors weren't exactly honest with you, even though you manage the engineering tightly. But sometimes things just go wrong, or you got something wrong. We did a deal with a client where, from the time we started the process to the time we got our first paycheck, was almost 2 years. It was 2 years of meetings, 2 years of discussions, 2 years of writing an RFP, 2 years of use case demonstration, 2 years of trying to implement a technology that took some time. There was massive API builds that had to happen. There was massive miscommunication with the vendor and their third-party vendor that they didn't say they had a third-party vendor on. And we had to get things done in a way that made sense. We swapped out project managers. That's an investment, man. I mean, and we finally went live almost somewhere between 19 months and 2 years later. But by the time we got our first paycheck, that's a 2 year long relationship with a client where they look back and said, "You never ever left our side. You were here the whole time."
Love it. Love it. Frank, what are some of the milestones you guys have achieved along the way?
We're pretty happy. We've had, I think our first milestone is that we convinced a couple people to come work for us, right? We're up to 11 people right now. I think that's the most proud thing that we have. We've got people that trust us, and with the lives of their family, the lives of, their careers, to come work for us. To us, that's a massive feather in our cap. I don't think I can undervalue that enough. And I'm really thankful for those people that came on board to us. We've made Inc. 5000 2 years in a row, fastest growing companies in America. We're really proud of that. CRN, one of the fastest growing companies in the United States. I think we're number 77 on that front. And now we've just made an acquisition of a company that's going to be focused on extended and virtual reality. So we're kind of diversifying a little bit of our portfolio so that we can get into newer areas of technology, which is something that, if anybody knows me, would think that's pretty cool, that I'm actually in the virtual reality space. But it's those milestones are things that we don't take lightly. I mean, the fact that we have a team of people, we have employees that are here for us. The fact that we've been the business model is proven by being a fast growing company, especially 10 years in, and the fact that we're able to diversify some of the stuff that we're doing into different business units now, I think it's really exciting for us. I'm really proud of that stuff.
Beautiful. Amazing milestones there. What would you say are some of the challenges that you guys faced while reaching those milestones?
I mean, if I could go back and erase COVID from everyone's memory, I would say that, we were all out there kind of swimming ahead of the curve on the cloud-based technology migrations, right? And then COVID came, and just the tsunami just came in and just moved the market, right? That was probably the biggest one. There's some other kind of milestones that I think were smaller and more tactical that we kind of jumped over, but those gates like COVID, those gates like keeping a business running during that period of time, we've learned a lot from that. I also think there's a lot of where technology buyer's remorse. People have a lot of that, right? And people want to understand what they did and what they bought. So they come to us to say, "Hey, we did this. We want your help extricating it." So I guess the expansion on that is really, there's so much technology out there for people to go look at and make mistakes buying, that we have to overcome that challenge of, "Hey, trust us to help you do this." And they look at us and go, "Hey, maybe you're an expert in 2 or 3 things, but now you're an expert in all this stuff. And maybe we are, maybe we're not in certain elements of this. But we're willing to put the time and the effort to gather the information so that people can make informed decisions." And that kind of just enormity of vendors that are out there is a challenge for us every day that I think we're still kind of overcoming, especially in the AI space.
Love it. I mean, it's like challenges and blockages in business is like a never ending thing. Sometimes people think like once you reach a certain stage, like 10 years or you're Inc. 5000, this and that, then this guy's like writing it out pretty smoothly, and he probably doesn't have any more issues.
Yeah. Boy, Frank's life is great. Look at Frank. He's driving a nice car.
Yeah.
It's not the model. I got kids going to college next year. So God Almighty, man, that's you want to change your financial picture. Let's start talking about kids going to college.
My
But no,
goodness.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, what you're trying to do, I think, Mustafa, you probably saw some of the same challenges yourself, right? Like you're
Yes.
building a podcast, you're building a following. There's probably some challenges that you had along the way that people would learn from, just to hear kind of what you had to deal with. That no business is without its challenges, even as far and as successful as you've been.
100%. There's always challenges. What would you say is like holding your business back right now? Holding you or your business?
I don't know. I mean, I think we've built Cloudlinx as a CX consulting firm, right? And we're not transactional. That's probably, so it's like I'm answering a negative with a positive, I guess, right? We're not a very transactional organization. People don't come to us and say, "Hey, Frank, I just want you to look at this one vendor and then we're done." That's a lot of the work we're doing is very time consuming. It's very laborious, right? And we're introducing technology to kind of help us with that. But we believe in the value of that one-on-one relationship with the client. There's tremendous value to that. And maybe that's a hurdle for us to overcome as we go. But I look at it as somewhat of a positive, because when a client signs up with us, I'm the one doing the consulting work. Kevin and Mike are the ones doing the work for these clients. We have a back-end group of people, Brianna and Emily and Kate and Devin and all these people in the back end that are doing work for people that, it's labor intensive. So, maybe I'd love to grow faster and bring on more clients, but like I almost feel like Jerry Maguire at times, fewer clients, better experience, to get as corny as I possibly can. Now,
Fantastic.
Mustafa, you don't know the Jerry Maguire movie. Now that whole reference was wasted.
I don't know. Sorry.
I knew you didn't know it.
That
We're
just
also
flew
speaking
right
to
over
you.
my head.
Right over your head. I knew it right away. I was like, it's over your head. Go watch Jerry Maguire now. You'll get a handle on it.
Interesting. Yeah, that just flew over my
Yeah, I knew it. I could tell by the way you blanked out right there. That was great. See, to help you, Mustafa. Yeah, you'll love that.
Absolutely. Who's had a major influence on you as or your business?
The who is an interesting comment. I give a lot of credit to my two partners. They've kind of pushed and prodded us into a certain direction, and we've done a really great job with that. We don't look back with any regrets on that. I think I look at some of the ways my father did his business and operated his business and conducted himself out in the market as outside of random arm wrestling competitions that I'll get into it, every so often. There's, my father, the way he conducted his business, the way he managed it, that's been a big guiding principle for how we operate the business here. I think the team kind of looks up to us in a way that's like, hey, they're doing it right. So keeping them feeling that way is a big guiding influence for us. So we kind of, as you start talking to us in the industry, you'll find that we're, good or bad for us financially, we tend to stay in the straight track and just do things the right way. And that just kind of having that reference point out there that everyone kind of look at and be like, boy, those guys are doing it right. That's kind of been our guiding light. That's kind of like, whatever, stay corny. That's our North Star on that front.
Beauty. Frank, what advice would you give your younger self if you were starting your business right now?
Oh gosh, do it sooner. Do it sooner. I think things happen when they're ready. I would have loved to have gone out and done this sooner, but you have to have the experience to make it work, right? You have to have the partnerships to make it work. You have to have the belief in yourself to make it work. You have to have the right timing with family. And, people say, they look at people and they're like, overnight success. And I think you see that all the time, but no one's an overnight success. No one's a self-made man. No one's a self-made person. You're out there, you rely on a lot of people, you rely on your network. And I think I built my network and my partners built their network so that when the time was right, we made the jump. And I think especially today, it's probably a better question to shift, Mustafa, is if I'm a young sales rep starting today in this kind of work at home environment, I would say, forget working at home, get out and meet people and go network and build your network, because an A player with a C network will always lose to a C player with an A network. Like, get out there and network with people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Most of my business, most of my good business, that's probably worth talking about, has come from networking.
It's huge. I think it's undervalued. In this age of kind of like being online and being a social media influencer, and I kind of hate that word now, but that that model of getting out there and just meeting people, like I mean, I was out at a client event a couple weeks ago. I walked into a bar, had a conversation with two guys, and we're doing business now, just randomly, And I think people are just afraid to do that. They're afraid to get out there and network. But it's gosh, it's how business gets done. And I think all the sales reps that have ever worked for me, and I don't think I was a particularly great manager, but I think the salespeople that grew up with us or under us would look at you and say, that's probably the number one thing they took away from you, is saying, get out there and build your network.
100%.
I mean, you probably get tons of references from people like, you got to get on this guy's show. You got to talk to this guy. You got to do this. I mean, that's
so to be honest and transparent. This is my way of networking with people like yourself, right? I mean, it's
well, you're not.
We didn't know each other before the show.
No,
we started getting to know each other, and now we have a conversation. And you never know what will transpire in the future.
I agree 100%. And paths open up in front of you when you're out there doing good things, right? And kind of Oprah Winfrey, you got to put it out there into the world and see what happens. We've done some of the biggest deals we've ever done from 10-person call centers who referred us upstream. We've done some of the biggest deals we've ever done from an event we hosted once at a bar, where a guy walked in and was like, you guys look like you're having a lot of fun. And we're like, come on, have a beer with us. And I learned what we were doing. And he referred us into a client. It was just, you're out there doing things. And I think good things happen when we're out there in the world.
100%.
Could you imagine starting your career over again and at a purely work at home environment? How do you think you'd do?
How would I do again? What again?
Like if you had to start over again in a work at home environment, like do you think you'd be the same as you are today? Do you think you'd have any difference in your career, how well it's been?
So to be honest, I have always worked from home.
Okay.
So my people are always online. I've run online businesses and still do. And God, it's been 15 years. I keep saying we're going to get into an office 6 months from now. And I kind of figured out that model to work from home.
Yeah.
And yeah, but
I got that. It's key, I think. Yeah, Mustafa, if you're out there and you've mastered that kind of work at home environment where everyone's collaborating in real time and they're doing things in real time, I give you a lot of credit for that. It's very hard for companies to do well.
Yeah. I mean, we do what we do is to kind of fix that issue is we do a daily huddle. Every morning we talk. At the end of the day, we talk, so we know exactly who's doing what's happening, challenges, issues, and then at the end of the day, we touch base on what was done and accomplished. So we kind of fix that issue of being apart.
You got a good accountability model, and you've got a good collaboration model that you've built in the team. That's probably, for me, that would have been good, but I'm just too prone to distraction. I mean, I'm in an office now a mile from my house because I need to get out and just be a part of the team here.
100%.
Yeah.
So, Frank, can I ask you a couple of personal questions?
Sure.
All right. So, do you read books?
I do.
Give me 2 of your favorite books of all time.
So I have, I'm a bit of a geek, so I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. I know that's 3 books, but I count it as 1 because I read the compendium, the large scale book. That's my favorite book. And oh gosh, there's a James Patterson book that I love, When the Wind Blows. I like James Patterson. When the Wind Blows. And there's probably a second one he wrote called The Jester, that are just 2 very good books that I like as well. So those 3 are probably the ones that I go back and read again. And
Jester was the last one?
The Jester, like a court jester.
And these are fiction, right?
Yeah.
All right. Love it.
I only read fiction. I try to get into historical books or real books, and I can't do it.
Yeah. Fiction is amazing. You know what I learned years ago from a friend, saying that when you read fiction as an entrepreneur, it activates your vision and the visualizing aspect of your brain, and it gets you going that way.
That was my plan.
What's that?
That's my plan. That was my plan.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I believe that. Listen, like that element of like the creative side of the brain. That's kind of why I go back to like my partner Kevin is right across the hall from me. He's there. We get together with our partner Mike as often as we can. Just being in that room together, joking around, moving around, having fun. Ideas are popping into the head. So I definitely
100%.
the visualization aspect of reading fiction.
And I've had this myself when I read fiction. Ideas are just
Yeah,
springing out versus when I read business or nonfiction.
I'm with you.
Interesting. So, what's one advice that made a big impact on your life or business?
Um, I go back to kind of one of the experience matters, right? And you get to a certain point in your life, and I think everyone kind of realizes this, and this is why it kind of matters at a certain point in your life. But I think the Jet Li quote of "Why work for somebody for 30 years is going to replace you in 2 weeks." If you were to die, they would replace you in 2 weeks. It's a great quote from Jet Li, and that was one of the big impetuses behind making this decision to do this. You get to a certain point, and at the end of the day, you're an employee for somebody unless you're willing to go out and make it and find somebody that you can trust and be partners with. And I think that's what we kind of did in here. And it's that security and that comfort and that risk. You got into it together, so we couldn't replace each other in 2 weeks.
Fantastic. Love it. Frank, this was a great conversation. You shared a lot of nuggets and information. Great stuff. Is there a question before I finish that I should have asked that I didn't, and it would have added value if I did?
No, listen. I think you did a great job. This is a fun conversation. I think you and I need to create a movie list together of movies you haven't seen, and we'll
Eric McGuire to
put
be
that in the notes when we list it. Jerry Maguire is going to be number one. I'll ask you if you watch Top Gun after this.
I have watched Top Gun.
Okay, not the new one though. Not the new one. So no, I think listen, this is a lot of fun. I enjoyed this. This is a good way to kind of get yourself out there and talk to people. And Mustafa, I really enjoyed the way you did this and set this up. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Likewise. Before I finish, one more question. Who would be a good referral for you? Who do you want to be introduced to?
Anybody that's in the call center space looking to expand on their current technology footprint, anybody looking to improve the way that they're engaging with customers is a good reference for us. Anybody looking to save money or optimize or invest in AI, those are great clients for us.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Where can people reach out to you and find you?
Well, I won't spell my name out here on this because F. Wassenbergh at Cloudlinx is probably a little long, but cloudlinx.com is the place that you'd find us, and you can get a hold of us through that. And when we post this, I'm sure, believe me, hopefully we get a lot of context, but I'll get it out there on LinkedIn. We're pretty active there.
Fantastic. So, gang, the website is cloudlinx.com, and I'm guessing that you're on LinkedIn as well.
Yes.
So if people have questions, they want to reach out to go to either places. And if you have any questions for me or Frank, put them in the comments and share the links of this conversation with someone in the contact center or call center experience world. I have a few contacts in the call center world, and we'll probably talk more about that after. Thank you. You've been watching and listening to the Executive Hub Show. Yours truly, Mustafa Hosseini, my guest, Frank Wassenbergh. Sorry, I was going to butcher your name for a second.
You got through it. Just call me Was. It'll be fine. You'll get through it.
And we'll see you on our next episode.